Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm always glad to have you here, glad to have your energy and, do what we do on this platform. If you are landing on the channel for the first time, I am a Fefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. Clearly, I'm a tarot reader, but I'm also a former newspaper journalist. So my readings, I have a certain mindset and a certain energy that I bring to my readings, or at least try to when I go to my spirit guides. And I'm also an initiated priestess in both Wiccan and African traditions. So I use all of that when, again, go into spirit, getting guidance, getting deeper insights on what the heck is going on. All right, taping this really early Friday morning. Today's going to be an interesting day because we heard that uh, FDT or F47. A lot of people say, who's FDT? And I thought that was a pretty common usage. But the bottom line is that guy is going to Texas today, a week later, on defense, like really on defense. And that's what Spirit has given me to read for you all today. Two things on defense. This administration is on serious defense in Texas. We're going to get into that, and on serious offense now with tariffs, particularly regarding Canada and this latest threat to by August 1st, I think it is. For the tariffs to go up to 35%. Mark Carney has responded to that, but from what I've seen, his wording and his tone has been very, very measured and careful in terms of stressing that he still wants to work and be cooperative with the United States to work something out. But we'll get into that too as part two of this reading. So let's look at Texas. Lots going on there in the wake of that horrific and tragic flood, right, in Kerr County. Now, here's the deal. You got Ice Barbie, right? Kristi Noem under major, major scrutiny right now because we have reporting that's come out that said she took over in terms of FEMA and the response, that she took over and said anything over $100,000 has to go through me. You don't take any measures, you don't take any steps, you don't send any people in if it's over $100,000, right? While this was happening last week, she apparently was on social media putting out photos. They call her Ice Barbie because she likes to dress, in this different attire. But apparently she had these photos out of her in these different costumes, basically, uh, for entertainment purposes only, right? Got to do it. She had these pictures, and she was asking, like, doing a poll, which one do you all like the best? Where do I look the best to do a gubernatorial portrait, while in the aftermath, in the immediate aftermath of this tragic flood, right? So it's like, whoa, where's your attention at right now? All right. So a report came out from CNN. You all have heard about it surely by now, but basically they're like, look, we have proof that, our sources are saying you the adequate attention and sending people in from FEMA was like 72 hours later. And she lies, fake news, never happened. And apparently they've got some goods on that. So she's, F47, let's call him that for the day. F47 says, she's doing a great job. Everything's good. Everything's going according to plan. But that does not look like what's happening. And I feel like we're going to see some lawsuits coming down the pike on that. That's one thing. Number two, you got Greg Abbott putting forward and pushing right now for this gerrymandering or redistricting, redoing the maps in anticipation of the 2026 midterms, right? And trying to make sure Texas is straight, gaining more seats or whatever. So you've got him doing that while, as governor of the state of Texas, people are like, yo, dude, is that really the pressing issue right now when we've got all of this? This is billions of dollars and lives still lost and lives still unaccounted for. And you're like, you're focused on doing some maps. Like, is that really the main thing with your job right now? That's not looking good. And then number three, less impactful around the recovery from the floods and the investigation around the floods, but is important enough. So Angela Paxton has apparently, on biblical grounds, quote unquote, filed for divorce against Ken Paxton, who is running for Senate, and apparently thought he was pretty, sitting pretty because of his, of course, staunch allegiance to his fearless leader, right? F47. So that story is going to be very, very interesting, how he can function and continue to function both with his campaign, how it can impact his campaign. Also recognizing that, from what I understand, what's his name, Colin Allred, who did quite well when he ran for Senate last time, is mounting and preparing to mount, if he has not already officially done so, a campaign for Senate on the Democratic side. So a lot of eyes on Texas, and I want to see how, just in a general way, we're going to see some interesting developments in terms of, if F47 shows up there today and starts tossing some paper towels, like, people are not, that's not going to go well. But also, like I said, the larger impact of things fraying, spirit. One, due to Kristi Noem's handling of FEMA, will we see lawsuits come out of this in terms of the government's response? Because that's not going to, the DOJ is already stretched way, way thin. Whatever personnel they have and the extent to which that personnel is, top of the line, let's call it that, for entertainment purposes only. Yeah. The last thing they need, more lawsuits against the government, but want to go to spirit on that. Due to Kristi Noem's handling, will we see the Wheel of Fortune? It's going to take some. Oh, and the Hermit comes right beneath it, so I don't ignore Major Arcana when I shuffle and I look at the bottom of the deck. When I, if it's Major Arcana, I don't ignore it. And for those of you who are readers, I'm using the Out of Hand Tarot today. All right, so we have the Wheel of Fortune, and upside down, and the Hermit. This is going to be so exacting in terms of, with that Hermit energy ruled by Virgo, the details of investigations, when like her saying this was fake news, F47 coming, she's doing a great job, don't know what you're talking about here, CNN is a liar, right? All of that, nobody's buying it, and it's going to go beyond, with this energy, it's going to go beyond CNN. It's going to go, they broke that story for sure, and they'll continue to follow up on it, but you're going to see other organizations who are going to actually provide proof and investigate the timing of all of this. When were requests made? When did FEMA respond? When did FEMA personnel show up, etc.? And that Wheel of Fortune, it feels like a timing element. It's going to roll out. Thinking about the wheel, Spirit is giving me, the news around this is gonna continue to roll out, and of course there will be continued denials that what we hear and what we know and the facts are not the facts, but that is still the case. Spirit, will there be lawsuits that come out of this based on what we will see? That Hermit energy, that Wheel of Fortune, as this continues to come. Look, and I even just looked down and noticed that U-turn. Like, let's go back over the facts. There is a timeline. There is proof of when people showed up, etc. Like, you can't cover that up. Will there be lawsuits? There will be. The Sun. Spirit's not playing today. There will be lawsuits because of the loss of life. The Sun, notice too, that, there's that playful energy of a child, right? You very often see that in tarot. It is about life. It is about life affirming. And so it's not even, this will be pursued, you all, not just because of the ineptitude or inadequacy of the response on the government's behalf, but people are accountable for so many lives lost, right? And recovery efforts. Like, had the response been faster or quicker, had it been more efficient, could more lives have been saved? That sort of thing, this energy is what we're seeing in the Sun. Spirit, will this, one more piece I want to look at, will this result in Kristi Noem's ouster? Will she be Is she gonna have to go bye bye behind this? Because right now we know he's standing next to her. There's a five of wands. There's a struggle here, you all. There's a brewing struggle around her. And I think what I'm seeing is that's gonna come within government as well. She's not well liked, but we know that Congress at all, those who could, call for investigations around her, um, they're just so, tied into being obedient to their fearless leader, right? But there comes that struggle, and here comes temperance. Hmm. Because temperance is patience. So again, we saw that wheel of fortune. This playing out a little bit over time. It's got to be detailed. It's got to be. It's got to be so rock solid. No, we have proof positive. Here's when people showed up. Proof positive. You said don't do it unless you gave your approval. You did not give your approval, etc., etc. So that's that. Temperance is patience, and moderation. There has to be, I get it, there has to be a bipartisan effort. And it's so difficult to even say that word with any meaning these days, right? Like, where did it go? Where did bipartisanship go? But that's what I'm getting here, because in temperance you have sometimes oppositional forces that somehow come together to create. You got that and it comes together to create something new. There's alchemy here. So I think what we're getting is this is going to take more than what is being perceived as, you know, radical left media or radical left Congress people, etc., to really move this forward. That's what it's going to take in terms of if she is to be ousted. He's not gonna. F47 is not gonna, and it's gonna be slow. Dang, everything is slow with getting the results that so many people feel like, hey, it's a done deal. It's so obvious, but it's gonna be slow. The Knight of Pentacles, Knights are movement. Pentacles of all the suits is the slowest moving. That said, though, with that Hermit energy that we saw, is not going anywhere. People, this is too big, too impactful, too undeniable. One of the things that I saw that F47 said in response to this was, well, who knew? This was a once in a 200-year type of event. Like, how could anybody have anticipated something like this, specifically in regards to the lack of sound alarms that apparently had been requested and proposals made for that, and they just poo-pooed it, within their state legislature and the government, the federal government. They just like, oh, well, we don't see the need for that. You've got F47 saying, no, how could anybody have known something like this? This is a once in a 200-year event. Well, while it was not as bad or as devastating from what I'm seeing, maybe many of you as well, there was quite the thing, quite the flood in 1987, right? Not that long ago. So that's going to be, this will not, this Christy Noem will not be held accountable or be in deep doo doo, pardon the term, with F47, because she serves his purpose, and he's been really protective of his crew that he assembled, uh, but there's something here where if they can get um, GOP members of Congress on board, if there can be some sort of, understanding, and I think that might be sped along a little bit when those lawsuits start coming in, because I'm telling you all, there's no way, as this investigation continues and people understand the extent to which lives were potentially lost for entertainment purposes only, because of this lack of a timely response and inept response, even when it was made. Yeah, yeah, people are going to be extremely angry. And politically, Greg Abbott is going to pay a price, because he's got to be really careful right now. He's trying to serve two masters, the master in DC and the master of his constituency, and residents of the state of Texas, and specifically within this region, who are going to say, look, what are you talking about? you're over here, proposing these maps when we're suffering, and we need your leadership and guidance to help get us out of this mess. Lots to see and watch for. Be really interesting to see what comes out of his visit to there today. All right, the second thing I wanted to look at, you all, is so he wrote this letter to, I think, 12 different nations, but in particular, I'm being led to look at Canada, because of, clearly that's our closest neighbor, ally for how many decades, um, threatening these 35% tariffs on the grounds that Canada still is not doing enough to stop the flow of fentanyl in the United States. Like, they've already, there have been enough investigations done around that. They're like, what fentanyl coming in? Like, not that it's none, not that it's a zero sum thing, but certainly not enough to warrant this kind of threat. So I want to look at whether, and the piece of that here's the piece that got me. Pulled up, I have here on the side. So there's a piece that ran yesterday in a publication I appreciate called Raw Story. Many of you may be familiar with it, but check out, this is a direct quote from the letter that F47 sent to Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada. And he says, as you are aware, so he threatens them with the tariff, but then he says, as you are aware, there will be no tariff if Canada or companies within your country decide to build or manufacture product within the United States. And in fact, we will do everything possible to get approvals quickly, professionally, and routinely. In other words, in a matter of weeks. So the strong arm there, you all, is he's saying, remember, with all of these job cuts, and the decimation of employment in the United States, and he promised as part of his platform to bring in and boost manufacturing in the United States. This is a strong arm tactic to basically force Canada, who, what I understand from what I read or understand, 3/4 of their exports are to the United States. So it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. Will Canada be forced, essentially, to build manufacturing facilities in the United States in order to avoid these tariffs? That's what we're going to look at, Spirit. With everything going on, with the threat of tariffs as of August 1st, will Canada be forced, or will they comply and build manufacturing within the United States? Are they going to have to do that? There's a Two of Wands that shows at the bottom of the deck after I shuffled. So that's essentially Carney doing what we saw his response to that letter that's been released in the media, that he said, look, for right now, we want to find a way to move forward. Two of Wands is an energy that focuses forward. And it says, basically, the two countries, how can we partner? He's really trying to put out the fire before it goes fully ablaze. Will there be manufacturing here? Queen of Pentacles comes in. Not sure who that is. And look, she's a sewing machine. Talk about manufacturing. I feel like this is an energy, you all, of how do you build, how do you nurture, how do you protect families and jobs. That's an energy of the archetype of the Queen of Pentacles, taking care of things, sewing, putting things together, making sure that workers both, and the economy both within Canada and the US, are taken care of. How do we do that? There's the Three of Wands. How do we grow together? I'm starting to see an energy develop here, you all. It's possible. But it would have to make sense. You're not just going to come and build manufacturing here to benefit the US. There has to be something that makes sense, that says, from the Canadian economy, we will do this Three of Wands because it also strengthens our economy. Rather than deal with a 35 or more percent tariff, we need to keep our economy strong. And so it makes sense to potentially do something like that. Page of Cups, slowing things down, and also recognizing that this is new territory. Everyone knows that the way that Canada and other countries have traditionally done business with the United States, it's out the window. And so that Page of Cups says recognizing this is a new era in the relationship between the two countries. And I'm getting specifically, Spirit is saying the two countries, not the two allies. Interesting. The devil. Okay. That's how they see, Canadians see. Increasingly, I want to say just F47, but increasingly, this is becoming reflective of the US in general. Because I think there's a recognition here in the devil. There's this binding effect. And so there's this recognition that even Congress, the way everybody sees how things are playing out here on all levels, Supreme Court, Congress, executive branch, etc. Everybody's keenly aware of all the moving pieces and how they've been behaving. And I think that's why the devil is here, you all. It's saying the tone is shifting and the sentiment is shifting towards the US because they don't see this as just a F47 issue. They see it as a larger issue, that there's too much compliance within all branches of government. And I just got a confirmation, Ace of Cups. If you've been with me here before, when my aces very often in tarot will indicate a yes. And so when I'm in a flow and I get a ace, that's my spirit guides telling me that's the deal. So yes, I don't see and there's the sun again, success. I think Carney is going to approach this is how do I protect the economy of this country, of my country? How do I protect the economy of my country? And is there a way for me to work with America, with this administration, this current administration, um, to alleviate any form of devastation? And clearly, tariffs that go that high for a country that exports, three-quarters of its goods here. Like, what does that do if not devastate the economy? So the potential for that is real, you all. The potential for Canadian manufacturing or building Canada building manufacturing is here, but or is possible, plausible. Spirit is saying, but how would Carney sell that, quote unquote, sell that to the Canadian populace, to make it make sense, and also to make it not seem as if they just caved to, this metaphorical, for entertainment purposes only, devil, right? That's what's happening. All right, you all. Lots going on today. I will check back in with you all probably on Sunday, and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much for your attention to the channel, for your energy to spending time here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the growing membership, offering more there. More content, exclusive content to members. There's a link if you're interested. There's a link to join my channel down in the description box below. I'd love to have you there. And I've got a meeting. One of the bonuses is I meet live privately on Zoom with my membership the last Friday of every month. So we'll have something coming up next Friday. I'll remind you about that one day next week. In the meantime, chin up, right? I always end with that, and I'm going to continue to do so. Chin up, shoulders back, and remember to come from your heart. Remember who you are. Remember what you stand for, and that, in the larger context of things, you still are a reflection of the divine, and you still have the protection and the oversight of the divine. You do not walk alone in this world at any moment. All right. I'll talk to you real soon. Take good care of yourselves. Bye.